I got to go on Joe Rogan this week. We went on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's, I was nervous, first of all. I was nervous because I look up to Joe so much, and for some reason with me, I think when I look up to somebody, for some reason it makes me kind of nervous. I guess, well, you want to, I don't know. It's like when you're hanging out, you know what it feels like to me a little bit? It's like you're hanging out with your big brother and his friends. And you're like, you want to, you're just, I don't know. I was just nervous. But it was wild, man. And right off the bat, Joe starts talking to me, and I love Joe. I'm extremely grateful to him. He's done a lot of nice things, small things that were really nice for me, like like he would just see me do comedy. And I've said this before, but he would just drop me a text a couple days later, the next day, and just say, hey man, you had a really good set, and that kind of stuff, like, you don't realize sometimes, like, somebody that you admire, like, telling you something, sharing something positive, supporting what you do, you don't realize how much that means to that person. And he doesn't, I don't think he doesn't probably realize it. But it's like I would get those texts and I'm like, wow, man. It's like your big brother. It's like, I don't know. It's just like it's like impressing your brother, impressing, I don't know. And that kind of stuff really just has resonated with me over the years. He's done that. And Joey Diaz does that as well. He'll call you. But Joe would do that sometimes and just hit me up and say, hey man, you were really funny last night. And coming from, my life when all I wanted to do probably was, make people I admired, make them feel like I was part of, like I was okay. And maybe some of that goes back to like father and brother, not being present growing up and all of that. But, just when you have a male figure and it, just that support, that's really what it is. Joe's been so supportive. And so, anyway, but I was excited to be in there and I was excited to get to hang out with him because he thinks like wild. He thinks like he's got, it's like, I think he has more than one brain in his head. Joe Rogan might have 5 or 6 brains in there. And one of the brains is probably and then he might have other brains orbiting around brains. He might have one brain that's, he might have brains in the distance, cooking elk. I mean, he's got, he continues to kind of like expand his way of thinking. And so right in the beginning, he was talking about if there were infinite universes and if there were more than just one of you. And I couldn't even, I was so nervous, kind of, I was just, couldn't even think really that good. But then now I'm thinking, after that, I texted him the next day and I was like, man, I'm obsessed now with wondering if there are infinite universes, this is what he was saying, if so many infinite universes that there would be a possibility for you to meet your exact self. Like, say the two universes get close enough to each other somehow in orbits or whatever, and then there's, programs, you're both astronauts or something, and you meet, like, if you were able to meet your exact self, think about that. If you were able to meet your exact self, and I was just like, I left there thinking, would I like myself? Like if I met me, like, would I like me? What would I do? What would I think? Would I think I was neat? Would I think I was tall? Would I think that I was handsome? Would I think that would I know, if I were able to look into my own eyes, would I be able to like see my truths at like another dimension? Especially since most of my life, especially growing up, like I didn't have a lot of self-worth. So most of my self-worth would come from what other people thought of me. There was no, there was nothing inside of me. So everything that I knew I had to get from the outside. And so I was so hyper aware of what other people were constantly thinking, because I needed to be, because I needed that next second and that next minute and that next, just to know. I was monitoring how I was and if I was okay through moment to moment interaction with others. And what they would give me back, that's how I'd feel about myself. I was thinking, like, if I based my feelings off of what other people thought of me, and I saw myself, would I then, like, looking into my own eyes, would I be able to, just come full circle with what self-worth means and what it, and just like get to another plateau in thinking about that. But it just fascinated me. I left out of there thinking, like, what the fuck? I never thought about running into myself. Would I think I had bad breath? Would I think I had like a long neck or a regular neck or a kind of a 4 out of 10, kind of a mid-range, lower mid-range neck, medium rare? Because I don't have a super long neck. And I don't think a lot of people in my family, we're not real look-arounders. Some people have a long neck. When you see those people, they're looking for stuff and they can, look behind the sofa easier and they don't lose their wallet probably as much because they got that extra 2 inches to look and to gaze. They could see fruit easier if they're looking for fruits. But when you have that limited neck, man, you kind of, you're stuck on your own little bitty, it's not really a hilltop. You just kind of stuck on, you kind of just hanging out on your own cliffside. You can't do a lot when you got that limited neck. And I come from a long line of people with limited necks. But yeah, I was just wondering, if you saw yourself and you looked in your own eyes, would you, I don't know, would your just whole world explode? Like, would you just know everything? Would I like myself? It just blew my mind. If there were infinite universes, and it just blew my mind, man. So I left out of there, I think, with a little bit more thinking, and I think that's kind of what Joe Rogan does for me, is he makes me think a little bit more. And he makes me think sometimes of uncomfortable things. He makes me think outside of like the confines of the comfortable confines of things that, these templates that I was raised in or raised around, or just that I saw. It's kind of like when you see, remember when you got them colors when you were a child and your mother took you to the color shop and you got that 8 box. You got that box of 8 hitters, just that little fucking, that Roy G. Biv fiasco. You got that little 8-pack, that 8 ball. You got that 8 ball. And suddenly, some dude shows up with that 64 box. And your fucking dick blew out of your ears. Remember that? Dude, I remember my nuts traveled up my body and looked out of my eye holes. Because I was just shook by the fact that some man suddenly had 56 more colors than I had. Some boy, not a man. They didn't have any men in our class, in disguise or anything. But that some boy, and it blew my mind. And suddenly you were doing different pictures and you were thinking different things. And you were like, fuck, magenta? I'm out here on magenta? And then everything changed. Because then I would see maybe I would see somebody's shirt or hat, or I would see a woman's hat at church and be like, oh, that's a magenta hat. And suddenly, you have more elements to put out into your template, to put out into your world. And that's kind of, I think, that's kind of what I left out of Joe Rogan's podcast thinking. I left out of there actually just thinking. He makes me think, and I think he makes a lot of, young men and women think. He's kind of this dope ass outer space male, marine, kind of not, he's just everything. I don't know what he is, man. It's almost like if you took a whole timeline of existence and just took it like that and put it all into one person. It's like the past and you know, in the future and everything. And he's probably got moons. I bet he has moons going around him. I bet there's a moon way off in the distance that we don't even know about. That's just that, you know, just that Rogan moon. But it was an honor, man. It's an honor to go in there. You know, it's just an honor. You know, like, I don't know. It made me feel, you know, I just felt like accepted. You know, like he made me feel accepted, which, for me is like a really big thing, you know, like, you know, like I think a lot of my life, I don't feel that way. And so to go in and I don't even think these are things that he's, you know, outwardly doing like on purpose. I think some of it's just his nature. You know, I think in some ways he's like a little bit of like that big brother that like, you know, I had my brother, but my brother, you know, didn't live with us and like, you know, and he, you know, and he's had some, you know, he's had some tough times, even though I really love my brother, and I'm, you know, I don't think I've ever been prouder of anybody in my whole life than him. But anyway, damn boy, this shit got me gleeking out my eyeballs, dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm fucking making salt water, dude. I'm like a 6th grade science experiment, zit. But yeah, I don't know. He just made me feel accepted and just, you know, I don't know. But I'm just grateful, man. You know, I'm just grateful to be in an environment where I feel inspired. What's up, guys? Sitting here with this marijuana plant. I think also could be just a regular plant. Could be poison ivy, bro. I'm about to smoke myself into some itchy. Just watch another clip since you're already here. You know what I'm saying?